I'm Meredith Porte, and welcome to Conversations with Friends. I've interviewed, as you know, for the last 3 to 4 years, maybe over 3 years, very interesting people that I think are, and not just me, people that I work with here at the Brahma Kumari's Meditation Center, and that, we really feel are making an impact, making a difference. Today is a very interesting interview with a person. You're going to meet her in a second. She's a lawyer, I'd say an entrepreneur. She's a writer now, and her whole outlook, her whole approach to what she does, you're going to hear about tonight, is mindfulness. So this is interesting because there are a lot of mindful coaches out there, but hers really speaks specifically to entrepreneurs or people wanting to create some kind of business or work or program, in South Florida or wherever. This book is really good. So anyway, joining me is Courtney Jared Bannan. And I should say again that she is a South Florida attorney. She's also a law professor, and now she's an author. So meet Courtney Jared Bannan, whose book, got to read you the book, and I don't think, do you have it? I hope she has it here. If not, we will get it in later. The name of her book is Ready, Set, Launch, the Essential Playbook for Entrepreneurs. And it's dedicated really to inspiring people to pursue their dreams, their vision. Courtney, great to see you. Yeah, perfect like that. Perfect like that. There you are on the cover. Inspiring picture there. And I want to start out by saying, here you were an attorney, still are, you practice. You've been also a professor for many years, quite a few years. And somehow you came upon something, and I think that you came upon it through your own personal journey, right?
Yes.
You got into mindfulness, and then things started to change for your life, for your career. So tell me about that.
So it all started probably a little over 2 decades ago. Mm-hmm. I started doing meditation and yoga. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I had been exposed to yoga my whole life. It was just kind of part of my upbringing, but I turned to it when I felt like my nervous system was out of whack and I needed to, practice something to bring down my nerves and help me kind of cope with anxiety, law school, children, everything. And then as I went through my practice, I realized I wasn't practicing, I was becoming. And that transition was extremely elemental in the pivot that I made from just being a regular person to being somebody who understood what the universal consciousness was and how important it was to make your first duty to everyone, not just certain people. Like we all have these duties and these roles in our lives. And that duty to the universal consciousness became my priority because I understood for the first time that everything we do affects everyone throughout the entire world, all life.
Yeah, what you're saying, I really understand this very well because I had similar kind of life change. I had been working in television for some years, many years, and kind of something happened where I met somebody or I heard something and my life changed. And so it is really life-changing when that happens. So this goes beyond just saying, okay, yeah, I meditate every night. I spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes or whatever. This is like where your whole being changes, isn't it? Now, were you a lawyer when this happened yet, or you were still?
Actually, I was in law school.
You were.
So I started law school with a 1.5-year-old. Then I found out I was pregnant. So I went through my first year of law school in the first trimester of my pregnancy. I was so sick. I missed a lot of classes. And the yoga and the meditation was kind of like a prenatal exercise, and it just kind of calmed me down and made me focus on things. And then as I went through law school, then with, a toddler and a newborn, and then 2 toddlers when I graduated, after that, yoga was just my release. It was my me time. But then I started noticing that, and I've always pretty much lived a yogic lifestyle. I became a vegetarian at 14. I go back and forth between being a vegan and being a vegetarian, depending on how good the goat cheese might be one day.
Yeah, right.
But those principles started seeping into everything that I do. And I was finding myself sometimes in a moral dilemma at work and doing things that I didn't feel were ethical or appropriate or that didn't benefit, the support of life and happiness and kindness. So I started practicing gratitude and mindfulness at work. And, a lot of times people are not very receptive sometimes to spiritual lingo. So I created different nomenclature to kind of serve people spirituality without them understanding that's what I was serving them.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. And I know the feeling because I know when I first started, and I felt like I was so alone because people used to say, "Are you weird? Are you strange? Are you going to go run away, live on, on an island or something?" But it has changed today. I mean, the word mindfulness now, is, I don't want to say it's a household name because I think probably a lot of people know it, but they're not necessarily practicing it or embracing it. And you did, you really did. And I mean, I'm thinking in the world of law and my late husband, and it turns out that you did know him, and that really touched me. In the world of law, it's not about this, is it? I mean, it really is, from what I've seen, is it's aggressive. You have to win, right? You have to win. You're not out to like have a good time or connect with people. And so a lot of I would think the principles of mindfulness can go against, being a lawyer's work. I mean, being, practicing as a lawyer, because you have to show success, right? Or it's not going to work. So did you find that experience, or did you come across
I did it first, until I realized that, the law is absolutely all about ego and winning. Ego and winning. And, the ego, it gets a bad rap. Everybody says, I don't have an ego. Yes, you do. We all have egos. Understanding your ego and knowing when to use it, listen to it, that's the key. So I prey on people's egos when I'm dealing with cases. So a lot of times people in the law will come at you with these, alternative theories, just trying to confuse the case and whatnot. And I try to have a teaching moment with them and say, look, this is really what's going on here. And I'm really good at investigating things. So I will find every little fact that I can in order to show them what the truth is. I'm a truth seeker as a lawyer. And I really try to just prey on that. And then I don't take cases where people just want to have an emotional response in court, or they just want their ego fed. I don't take those cases. So my success rate's really good because I take the cases that I know are good ones, that have principle and that kind of play into my platform of being mindful and doing the right thing and giving back to that collective consciousness, and practicing non-duality while I'm doing it.
Beautiful. Do you find that there are more and more people today? As I was saying, we know that mindfulness now is, almost not a household name. And again, I think a lot of people know about it, but they're not necessarily doing it. I mean, in time, hopefully they will. But do you find that it's like the kind of people that are attracted to your firm are people who have a pure vision of what they want to do, and so they come to you because they know that you have that vision?
Yes, and the beauty of it is mindfulness can also be termed business decision.
Yeah.
So if somebody comes to me and they want to fight because they want to have their day in court, what I do is I write down all of the things that we have to overcome in the case. I give them an estimate of the hours. I give them an estimate. I tell them, how much do you think you're going to get? Okay, let's cut that in a third. You can expect a third of what you actually think you're going to get. Now let's add up all the time, the months, and the years, and let's see, if we're even, then it's a good business decision to just let it go. Just let it go, because that actually is very empowering, and that is winning. You're walking away from something that's toxic and not good for you. So that mindfulness can also be, coined as a business decision. And that's just how I present it to my clients.
Wow, that is really interesting. And I love in your book, I think it starts out with the questions that people need to ask about themselves, right? To
Yes.
begin to know, because really has to do with people don't know themselves in a lot of ways. A lot people
No.
just live by what they've learned, what people have taught them. Philosophy is a way of being, and yours is to figure out who you really are. So can you
Yeah,
explain how that works? Like, who am I? I
absolutely.
love it because that's kind of a meditation, theme. Yeah.
It is. And a lot of the exercises in my book are actually very meditative, like that one in particular. But I think a lot of us walk through life looking through a glass. We don't really see what's out there. What we're seeing is our perception of what is out there. Once you realize that you're perceiving something from all the things that you've learned and been taught and been told and been called, when you let all of that go, then that glass disappears and then you see things exactly how they are, and it also lets the energy in, and that is very empowering, and that is so important to have that brutal self-awareness. And I would say in 2024 was probably my biggest growth year of my life, because I finally let go of that last little piece of glass that I had been holding on to. And I did a brutal self-awareness check, and I just really pivoted from that point on, and I've done nothing but grow since then. But a lot of people are afraid of who they are. They're afraid of their power. They're afraid to succeed. It can be
Hmm.
very terrifying to become what you have been dreaming about, because once you achieve it, a lot of people think, well, that's not a big deal if I was able to do it. And they don't pat themselves on the back or express gratitude for the journey that they took. And that is a very important thing too.
Understanding we're all on a journey, isn't it? So everything doesn't happen at once. Even when you start to embrace such concepts, it takes time, doesn't it? I mean, as much as you think, I've got this down, and I don't have this problem that I had when I was younger or whatever. It's going to be another test, right? It's going to be another
Yeah.
challenge. But what I liked reading about with you was people do need to know themselves, and they need to work on that. And
Yeah.
otherwise, they're going to keep having the same problems over and over again, aren't they? What is it? There's a saying, something, if you continue to do what you've always done, you'll continue to get what you've always gotten, or something like that, right? I think that's what it is.
Exactly. And spiritual work is not about overcoming selfishness or your ego. It's about recognizing the disguises that they come in, and seeing what triggers those, and learning, oh, this is usually where I put this disguise on, or I put this disguise on. And a lot of that comes from attachment. So practicing non-attachment is also very important, and not letting anything own the space in your head. If something doesn't work out, sometimes, like, the old me had a difficult time letting go of things. Now I'm like, next. I'm a completely different person, because I understand that that was a lesson, and I'm grateful for the experience. And I'm just, I can't even tell you, deeply moved by things that actually happened to me that were bad, because they made the best parts of me come out.
They really do. I mean, the things that happen are the challenges that make you grow. But Courtney, you have really done the work. So I'm just wondering, when people come to you, whether when you're coaching people, they come to you for their business, their business plan, and how to really be an entrepreneur and maybe make their dreams come true. A lot of them, this is all very new, right? I mean, often, well, you're saying that people know who you are now, and so they come to you looking for something different than maybe another firm. Am I right?
Yes, especially I have a
Yeah.
lot of clients that are in the health and wellness or spiritual space.
Mm.
And so the way I draft, like, legal disclaimers or waivers and releases for them, I use soft language. It's still 100% shark lawyering, like, it's in there, but I disguise it. And I was a writer before I was a lawyer. So I'm really good at making things sound softer, but still have that legal punch. So I get a lot of referral business in that space and in the coaching space. So where, again, you need to be soft because it's all about relationship building and trust. And especially in the spiritual space, a lot of my clients are, they're giving people sacred spaces and sacred journeys. And I have to honor that. And I honor that by drafting language that protects them. And a lot of people in that space don't want any of these legal documents because they sound terrifying. It's the opposite of what they're trying to do. It's like, oh, I'm gonna heal you spiritually now. Here, sign this, 55-page waiver and release that you can't sue me if you break your leg in here. But I'm able to help them in that way. So most of my business now is just on referral. I don't even advertise. I don't do anything.
So people find you, they find you and they know that they're getting something different. Does it make them feel better? I mean, I'm sure people come to you with all kinds of ideas, entrepreneurial ideas, because you help people that want to be entrepreneurs. They might have a job somewhere, right? And they always dreamed of maybe having a restaurant, or whatever it is that they want to do. And you kind of guide them along the way, right? But
I do.
There's got to be a lot of fear. And then you have to be very real with them too, to say, look, this is what to expect. It can't be all, mindfulness and everything's going to be great. Right. And so
I'm known for my brutal honesty.
Really? So that you tell them, look, this is, it's going to be a long, hard road. This kind of work is not easy for people suddenly saying, I've always dreamed of, having my own whatever business or something. And maybe they never had their own business. I mean, I know myself, I always worked, in TV, I worked somewhere. I would not be probably a good candidate in that sense, or maybe I'd be ready for change. Who knows?
Oh, yes. I could think of so many things that you could do as an entrepreneur.
Oh, I like to hear that. Right. You just never know, you never know. And so, it's a process. So when people come to you, they have to go through this process. It doesn't happen overnight, right?
No.
Yeah. And would you say that, again, this is something that it didn't just happen for people? They were looking for something more spiritual because you offer something spiritual, which has got to be unusual, a lawyer that's spiritual. Because I had a family of lawyers and they all were really good people. But then again, in those days, like when my husband, when I started getting into these things, he thought I was really weird, but by the end of his life, he loved it. He was the one that was at meditation class every single Tuesday night at my house. He changed a lot. He really changed a lot. And as he got sick, he wanted, and he was a partner in a law firm, and he wanted the meditators to be here when he was in the hospital or to be at the hospital. And so even, lawyers that don't really recognize this and don't get this, they're open. But I still meet people that sometimes, again, I don't have a business like you do. So, it's not about that, but who don't exactly get what I'm talking about. And I'm not, and you're so advanced in terms of helping people with business. I'm not doing that, but sometimes you could talk to people about things like this. And I'm going to say something, which is we're in tough times, and there's a lot of hopelessness with people. So do you find, fear, and they want to move forward, they want change, they want to start a business, but would you say you have to also help them deal with the risks, the difficulties of, trying something new in these times?
Yes, absolutely. And, I do a very big vetting process when I take on a client, because if I'm going to be sharing time, space, and energy with someone, I want it to be something that's good for me. I don't want to work with people who aren't receptive to what I'm going to say, not even the spiritual stuff, just the legal stuff. And if I give someone some guidance, like, you need to do this first, and they're like, no, I don't want to do that. And then I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to work with you.
Whoa, that's tough. I mean,
so you know what? I'm very tough. And the funny thing is, a lot of people think, they see me and they know I'm spiritual. They see me doing yoga, every day. So they think that I'm different, but I'm not. I'm very strong. I have a very strong personality. But when it comes honesty is a gift to people. And, I'm not mean about it, but I am extremely blunt. And if it's not a good idea, and if they're not going to do the work, then I don't want to work with them, because at the end of the day, then they're not fully invested in themselves. And you can't go into this process unless you're fully invested in yourself. If you can't stay home on a Friday night to work on yourself or work on your company because you're going to, you have a fear of missing out on partying, then this is not life for you. You have to be so obsessed with what you're doing and your mission and your goal that nothing else matters except getting to that end point. And that involves working on yourself, keeping yourself healthy. I'm actually doing a conference next week where I talk about, it's a spiritual new medicine conference where I talk about how to incorporate these things into your daily life to maintain yourself. So you're not practicing, you are becoming. And that is a very good nuance for people to understand when they're getting to it. So you can do micro meditations throughout the day, micro movements throughout the day, how to adopt a yogic lifestyle. Even if you don't want to be a yogi someday, these are things that are healthy for your nervous system. When your nervous system is calm, you can strategize instead of being emotional. And that is a very important thing for any business owner, entrepreneur, or anyone really working in the corporate sector, is to maintain that even keel at all times. And it's very difficult. It's very difficult.
People haven't been trained that way. And, they've been trained to, and you even mentioned it in the book. Trained meaning conditioned, I should say.
Yes.
A lot of people get angry if they don't get their way, right? Especially I think people that are trying to accomplish something, maybe on the work job, if you work somewhere, you kind of know what the rules are, but let's say you want to be, or you're trying to be an entrepreneur, maybe you're used to getting angry or getting emotional or treating people a certain way with arrogance. There's a lot of things that people have to overcome that aren't going to work.
And I would say the biggest one that I see is people need to embrace failure. When you are, starting out in a business as an entrepreneur, it's probably going to fail in one area or another, or maybe altogether. And you have to be okay with that. You have to look at the lesson, see where the failure was, identify it, find the source of it, pivot, and move on. It is so important. And a lot of people just can't do that. They only see themselves as good as their last mistake. And that is a big, blockade that people have mentally. And meditation and yoga actually help with that attitude. It really makes you understand the big picture. And when you understand the big picture, you realize how small you are and that you are not just this one person. You are connected to everything. We are connected to everything, and our energy spreads through each other. When you embrace that and you find similar people, it makes it a lot easier to say, oh, you know what, I messed up. Can you believe that? I sucked at that one thing, but I know why. I know what happened. I looked at it the wrong way. So I'm going to try again. And you have to just get up and keep trying. I failed at a lot of things in the past few years. I tried to do different things, and you know what? Sometimes it was timing. Sometimes it was, the investment was too large, and I had to just pivot and move on.
Well, what I'm seeing in you, it's obvious. You are one who keeps growing. And I have a feeling that you were always like that. This didn't just happen. You started out somewhere like that where you always are moving forward. And most people, I don't want to say most people, but many people are stuck in their old ways. And to break from those old ways is a big challenge, isn't it? I would say your book is very helpful. And maybe just outline a little bit. Because the book is, how many pages is the book? It's a lot.
350.
300. So this book is really...
Well, 352 if you count the startup checklist in the back. I don't know why my light is so bright. There's nothing I can do.
Yeah, it's hard to see, but that's okay. We get what you're saying. It's a big book. But I'm amazed at how much information. Yes, you have the spiritual stuff and the mindfulness and everything and the knowing yourself and all of that, but you also have some very specific, business things that one has to do if they want to go off and do something that they haven't done, you know, as an entrepreneur. And maybe, you know, you work in, you know, maybe you've been involved with something your whole life and you really know that subject, but suddenly now you're going to go off and do something different, related, but different. You need to have facts and you need to have information, whether it's licensing or everything. And you've done your homework with this book, haven't you?
I have, and I did
How
it.
long did it take you to write a book like this?
Then during COVID, I finished it, and then I sat on it for a while because I was working for someone, and I didn't want to publish it while I was working for them because I didn't want them to take credit for it. So I waited until I left. But I mean, honestly, it didn't take that long because I was passionate about it, and I sat down and I didn't stop until it was done. And I did it sequentially so people know what order to do things in. Like if you need a business license, take care of that first because that takes 10 weeks. Then you're going to do this. Did you search your trademark? Did you search your company name? Make sure there's nobody else doing what you're doing. Just everything's from hiring.
It's like everything is in that book. Everything you need
funding,
to know to start a business, right? I mean, that's really what it's all about. It's really even, I don't know, just every single, and it's the way it's laid out, you know, one point after another point after another point. So you make it easy.
Have, taxes, which states require taxes on digital projects. I made a chart. I mean, I went really full on everything. Any business could use that, not just an entrepreneur.
Well, it's very interesting because you're very practical, beyond practical. I mean, this book is real. This is not just, you know, up there in the sky kind of thing. But the spiritual messages come through, you know, being aware, as we were saying, of your ego, being aware of when you get angry or controlling, or so as a person works toward their goal, they also, you know, of wanting to have a successful business or whatever it is they want to do, they're also growing, aren't they? So have you seen a lot of people and they've really, really changed as a result of your work?
Tear-eyed. I have. I can't even tell you how many people I see now so successful, so happy, growing as a person. I coach a lot of people too. Only my clients. I don't do coaching unless you're my client, and I don't really charge for it. Like it's part of the deal that you get. So good deal. I coach them when they want to have add a new vertical to their company or whatever. They just call me. But watching people grow and actually listen to the spirituality side of it, for me, I have them meditating. Actually, somebody called me yesterday and told me they did their first headstand because I'm famous for my headstands. That's my thing. And it's just beautiful to know that I'm spreading things out into that connected universal consciousness. It's so important to me.
And it's more important than ever for the world. I mean, to me, what you're doing is you're doing the work. And you're obviously a very committed person with whatever you do, committed, dedicated. You're extremely beyond intelligent. I mean, you understand things. But a lot of people, look at your career and everything, compassionate, caring, and you're an interesting, you just really are an interesting person. I could understand why people would be, I would say, lining up, but they want to get your guidance and your help. And I think you must have a lot of challenges too, right? I mean, it's not easy, doing what you do.
No, it's not. It requires a lot of time. I travel a lot. I spend a lot of time. I'm also a solicitor in London or England and Wales. So I go back and forth quite a bit from Toronto to London, Pennsylvania, and Florida. And now I'm adding Utah and Pennsylvania. I have a lot of cases in Texas, and I have California also pending. So I'll have 7 states, and Canada's pending. I just finished everything for that about a month ago. So I'll have 5 countries and 7 states that I'm licensed in.
Courtney Jared Bannan, it's just a pleasure to get to interview you. You are so inspiring. I wish I had some idea for something I want to create, some kind of business. I would definitely come to you, but I'm not sure if you would want me as a client anyway, because I don't know if I could do all that work. I mean, it does require work. It does require a lot of effort. It's not for everybody, but those who really seek it and want this, like you said, you have to want to create a business, want to do this, and you want it and feel that you have something really good to offer, then you're the person, or, or the book, And I, again, just wanted to repeat the name of the book. And Courtney lives in South Florida. And it's just a pleasure to get to meet you and interview you. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate you. And I do have some free giveaways. If somebody, the first 10 people who email me, we can put my email address in your show notes, maybe. It's cjb@courtneyjaredbannan.com. Just like first 10 people, I'll give you a free book and some little swag stuff.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. So thank you.